It's the bubbleless bubble, just like it's the gateless gate, right?
Yeah. The veilless veil, the gateless gate. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, that's such a fascinating
Yeah,
thing.
it is. And because it comes right back to what you were talking about with the simultaneous.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Atlas. I'm super pumped for this episode. We are going to be talking about non-duality and awakeness. We have Fred Davis joining us on the show. Hi, Fred.
Hello, Atlas. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so
I'm
much for
excited to be
coming
here.
on. Me too. I'm so excited for this conversation. I've been a huge fan and it's been great. Yeah, it's been great to be able to take in all of the different ways that you're pointing to the one end from the different faces of the mountain. And yeah, that's been an analogy that we've been using a lot on our show as well. And it's helpful because we sort of get one of the ways aspects of the pointing from one of the pieces of video or books, and then we get another one from another pieces of video or books, and then that's sort of for each of us is our own unique style of that finding or awakeness of that diamond necklace that's already around our neck.
Right.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Fred Davis is a non-dual spiritual unteacher, 5-time author, creator of the Living Method of Spiritual Awakening and awakeningclaritynow.com. And you can find that link in the bio below, as well as his Amazon author page and his YouTube page, which has a lot of great free content. Fred, let's start off with this. This has been something interesting for me that I'm really looking forward to hearing how you feel about. So this idea of true simultaneity being something like, in the most layered approach to this, we can say that there's the non-duality, there's the ineffable.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is. And it's this appearance happening.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then there's another layer, and that's like the dualistic concession,
Mm-hmm.
which is something like there's suffering and there's well-being, and we should eradicate as much planetary suffering and maximize planetary abundance and well-being and flourishing and prosperity and whatnot. So I'm curious, there's 8 billion of us, and each of us are going through our own unique sort of piercing the veil, God realization to that diamond necklace around our neck. And so if we hold all 8 billion perspectives simultaneously in that range of where people are at in this sort of spectrum, how do you take in an idea like that true simultaneity of holding all of this at once?
Well, obviously it's not a character's ability to do so. The same thing that's looking through these eyes is the same thing that's looking through those eyes. You just met my wife Betsy, and it's the same thing that's looking through her eyes. And I just heard my dog Willie barking, and it's the same thing that's looking through his eyes simultaneously.
Yes.
Now, remember one time I had a session with somebody, and I happened to say you are the salmon swimming upstream. I just came out, and he said, I can't see as a salmon. I can't see as, why can't I see as the salmon?
Why can't I see as Willie?
Yeah, that's right. Why can't I see as Willie? And I said, well, you can see what's going on, just like you can see what's going on behind the camera in this room and all that. And I said, but you're just not using that unit to do it. You're using this one to do it. And you are using the fish to see as the fish, but all of that is coming to you. Now, what we hit here is we hit something that just jumps right on past logic, because what we're really talking, even the 8 billion, there's no way the mind can really get 8 billion. And then we look at the universe and we see that it's either limitless or expanding, depending on which scientist you talk, or both, I guess, depending on which scientist you talk to, whatever. The idea is these little things in our head, right? These brains. I use this to show them. Mm-hmm. What you got here is you got 3 pounds, but you got the most arrogant 3 pounds because that little piece of finity actually believes that it can encompass infinity. And it can't hold infinity, which is what it's always trying to do. We can only use that brain to behold infinity. And it's quite a difference. So it's not a matter of understanding this. I always tell people I'm not the answer guy, I'm the question guy. And that people will say, Fred, would you please explain that to me? And I will have, paid some money to talk to me. And I know it's very disappointing when I tell them, well, I can't explain you because I don't understand it. But that's the truth. I don't understand. You can't put this together. I get it. I know that I am this. I know that this is not, that I know that I am not other than this, but I also know I'm not limited to this. And I'm certainly not limited to one of these. But that has been the programming is, right. Our parents begin to train us. Fred, mama. Fred, daddy. Fred, Fred's room. And we go on and on. The brainwashing goes on. And we finally, somewhere between 18 months and 3 years, we entered that agreement. We entered that lie.
Yeah, this is actually a key topic that I've listed as well that I want to talk about. What you just said there was really resonant, that this
it's okay to laugh. It's just, you can't not. It's the cosmic joke.
It is. I know. It's Leela, right? The divine play.
That's it. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The 3 pounds, the most egoic 3 pounds. It's so funny. Yeah.
That's arrogant. Yeah.
Arrogant. Yeah. Arrogant 3 pounds. It's so funny. And there's this impulse. It's like to go in all the way to our source and to know that, and to have that be, although at this non-dual level it's this ineffable mystery, at the same time there's this seeking impulse to be like, hold all of infinity at once. But it is just this, it's the beholding of this expression of that is the sort of, it's like in the eye, it's the, the like you were saying, it's the one observer, and that's shared among us, and that the pupil itself is that shared component, and then the iris is the unique coloration of that expression, the appearance of the expression. And so maybe before we get into some of that youthful stuff, how do these like kind of childlike explain like I'm 5 analogies, how do they resonate when we say like the pupil is like the eye of God and the iris is like the unique coloration? Or
well, I don't actually talk about that, so it would be, but I can explain my view of things.
Yes. Yeah.
And my view of things is, you were talking about the necklace around our necks, but you probably know the story of Indra's net. And just in case anybody out there doesn't, let me tell it very quickly. So Indra is the head of all of Hindu theology, mythology. He's the king god, if you will. And Indra was there before anything was there. And Indra had a necklace like you're talking about, and he took it, and he had a net that was like a bunch of necklaces together, and he took that net and he flung it out into the void, and when he did, all the stars appeared.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it looks from here. But from the net's view, what you see is that there's a net, and at every juncture of a net, like a fishing net, right?
Yep,
And at
yep.
every juncture of that fishing net, there's a jewel.
Yes, exactly. Just
And
like Alex Gray's net of being, his visual that he has. I'll embed that here for people.
Okay.
It's super, and I'll also send it to you. It's a really
great.
good visualization of what we're describing.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Yeah, I have some visuals. I have some artist renderings of something approaching that idea here in my desk that I show people sometimes. So the thing is that when we look, what we want to do is we want to look at every jewel. What is it that every jewel can see?
Mm.
And what I'm going to suggest that every jewel, that each jewel, it can see every other jewel, but it can't see itself.
Mm.
The eye can't see itself. And so each one of these jewels has a zillion reflections. But nowhere in any of these jewels is there a center thing. Is there anything in the middle? It's the jewel itself, meaning that this is the jewel, right?
Yep.
And I can't actually find, I like to report, I'm very conservative in what I report, outlandish too, but what I can truthfully report to you, I can't really tell you that I am. I can't tell you I'm not, but that's really out of my pay grade. What I can tell you is that there's a sense of being here.
Mm-hmm.
That much I can report.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that's saying I don't know. It's lost in the loop, but there is a sense of being here.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed in my inquiries is that the sense of something doesn't necessarily equate with the truth of something. In other words, I had a sense this morning it was going to rain like crazy, and it's dry as a bone out there. So that's a wasted sense, and it's a sense that did not indicate anything that was true, but it was a sense. And what I'm saying is that there's a sense of being, but that's not the same thing as stating I am or there is being, or there's a sense of being. That's it. That's as far as we can go down that path. That is that
Mm-hmm.
sense of being is the last thing we see it's the first thing we see out of the non-dual gate, and it's the last thing we see in the non-dual gate as we move back and forth between those two. I am is thought to be that, but I'm saying there's something deeper and more primal than I am, which is the sense of being. And there's something below that sense of being, but I have no idea what. I want to know it. Well, what I can know is that I'm it. I know I can't not be it, but I can't know it from afar because there's only it. It can't, it's like oneness, looking for oneness, which is what everybody's doing in the seeking community, right? Oneness is looking for, I can't wait to merge with oneness.
Yeah, the fish is in the ocean, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Right, exactly. So what is there outside of oneness that could merge with oneness?
Yeah. I like how you bring in this really important visualization of this net of being, and how you also mentioned this just sense of presence, that simply is this happening. Now, in that visualization, it's really profound where we see that every single one of those in the net, every single one of those intersecting points is the diamond that is around each of our necks.
Right.
And then that source light shines through that unique diamond and refracts as a unique color combination in that iris. And so that's, yeah. And so
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. It's a theory that I know nothing about. So
talking about the ineffable. Yeah. The index
right. I just don't know about the iris and pupil, but that's fine. If that's your line of study, I'm perfectly amiable with it.
It's just an analogy. It's just a childlike analogy, because the pupil itself is just that dark, right? That same shared dark across all 8 billion, but the iris is uniquely colored across the 8 billion.
Okay.
Now, yeah. It sounds like you're following that.
Yeah.
And the diamond that's around each of our necks is the same. It's that diamond is a diamond across all of ours, but then it's refracting a unique expression.
Right. So what it amounts to is that, because in non-duality too often, and I now agree, I'm just going to agree what you're talking about with the eye thing. I was kind of lost there, but with non-duality, we come to sense that there is, we come to sense that there's something, and there's our sense initially is that, but we're not connected to it. That's the idea, because we think ourselves to be a separate being over here, not part of Indra's net, but a separate being, a distinct being, and we think that we are disconnected from source, if you will, or whatever. We just begin to get that idea as we move into non-duality. And then if we're not careful, the easiest move to make is, it's important once we get past the witness stage, because there's witnessing, but I can't find a witness, right? I've looked and I just can't find a witness. And so I would say there is witnessing, that much I can attest to. But as we become to see that the whole concept of a looker or watcher or whatever, that's really just another thought in the end. And so there's a feeling like I can come to know that, but who's that I that's saying that? Mm-hmm. I've not found that I. Mm-hmm. I have done inquiry with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and none of us have ever found that I, right? I've had a few people that did report that they found an I and they didn't wake up, but the people that were with me who did find the I, which was almost everybody, did find it and they came to see that there was no I.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's probably a good time to bring in this analogy that we also use for this part, and it includes the youthful component that we were mentioning earlier as well, which is that when the infant comes in to the world,
yes,
that in a sense it already is the ocean. It already is
absolutely.
And then that programming, especially that, like around 18 months, there's that object permanence that kicks in. There's these layers of identity. If it's if it's conscious parents, then there will be no drop that forms. But if the parents are unconscious, and especially because the civilization itself is unconscious, then what happens is that these layers, like onion layers, or like the drop itself, this bubble, as you describe also in your teaching, that it forms, and then the bubble, we can call that the egoic contraction of energy, that separate entity, is what ends up seeking, because it's the drop that doesn't realize that it's in the ocean. Whereas if you take like the Kogi mamas, or whatnot, they never undergo an experience of being anything other than the ocean.
Yeah, right.
And so 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 now what usually happens is you get these, like, let's say 25-year-olds or whatever, and they're like, what's the nature of reality? I'm not just this egoic contraction, am I? I'm not a biological finite creature. And so then they go seeking and seeking, and there's more and more direct paths now where you don't have to do 30 years at a monastery. And so what happens is that in the analogy, the drop gets, that bubble gets popped, and that's what people say when they're like, oh, everything is oneness, it's all unity. Oh, I get that. And so then there's that stage. So most of the approximations with things like spiral dynamics and David Hawkins's levels of consciousness as well is that there's approximately 85% or so of civilization that's living in a state of some sort of like egoic contraction of identity, and then about maybe 14% or so actually pop that and experience the oneness or the unity. But then what happens is there's the recognition that when you're the ocean, this observer or the witness or the I am or the self is shared. So you recognize that we are the ocean that is experiencing the waves, and the waves are the thoughts, feelings, emotions, perceptions, sensations, that type of stuff. That's like the clouds in the sky. And so all these different analogies for it. And then there's there's about 14% or so of people there. And then this last layer, which is like the 1% layer, which is what you can say is the absolute or the ineffable, which is when you sort of recognize that even there is no agent, there's no attributes whatsoever. The dream or the illusion or the appearance or what have you. How do you feel?
14 or 15% may be a little high.
For even the oneness? For even the oneness?
Not for as many people wake up. I think most people wake up at some point in their lives, but it's a brief passing through. They walk right through it. People are seekers who have an awakening, and they say, "Well, I know that can't be it," and they keep going looking for it. So, I have a saying that says that many awaken, but few clear. So as far as for making the jump from I'm a guy to there's just this, that jump, or even to oneness, that there's just oneness. And I had a very successful oneness teaching for a couple of years, and then awakeness pulled the rug out from underneath me, and it was like, oh, this is a provisional truth, but it's not the actual truth. And so this experiencing oneness consciously, right? So I would call that conscious awakeness. And people come to that, they get a glimpse, they get the unknown unveils itself for a flash or whatever, and they see something, but they never think about it again, or they do think about it again, but they can't get it back because there's a sense. Here's the bubble of self-reflection. There's a sense. I had a awakening like that in 1992, and it was absolutely valid, but it was not long for this world, because shortly after I came to realize that I was no thing, I began to be very impressed with anything that could come to know that it's no thing. So in other words, it became like, oh, I got it. And the question is, well, who are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So it's, and the egoic principle comes in and claims that seeing for its awakening.
Yeah. And
then ego is left in the unenviable position of trying, because one tastes and you just want another. Yeah. I have people that email me all the time, and these are spiritual addicts, and they don't know, and they think, I just need one glimpse, just one glimpse. But I had a friend of mine that owned a store and stuff, and he took some cocaine one night years ago in the 80s, and he said it changed the whole man. He said, but the first thing I noticed that the new man wanted was more cocaine. And that's the way that we are with spiritual experiences. Just want one until I get one, and then I want another. And we can actually move beyond all that, where it's unnecessary to have what people consider to be altered state experiences or whatever. But very few of us will move past a very small percentage, I think. I could be wrong. I actually don't know a damn thing. Socrates and I are agreed.
Yeah.
So we're just talking, words are coming out, and they're saying what they're saying, but there's no one saying them and no one listening to them. I'm really glad to have all one of us here, right?
Yeah.
So, but there can be the ones who really penetrate, who go beyond consciousness, because there's consciousness for many people is I understand that it's the difference in what you mean when you say consciousness and all that, but I do find it very confusing, because consciousness seems, what are you looking for? I'm looking for consciousness. Well, what are you looking with? I'm looking for with consciousness.
Yeah.
So, right? so we can move beyond that, but it's not. What you can notice right now is there's a sense of being. Everybody that's watching this can just notice that there's a sense of being. There's a sense of aliveness here. There's a sense of presence. And 20 years ago, when I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, I thought that a sense of presence was I thought God's presence or something else's presence was what I was supposed to be noticing. I never dreamed it was my presence.
Yeah.
And so there is, I would like, whatever's speaking, ego would like to understand this. As we've said, it can't understand it. It's prior to understanding. And the sense of being is here, but the sense of being, I can confess that there's a sense of being, but I can't confess what that is. Because this sense of being, if you try to describe it, you'll find that you can't, because it's prior to whatever you are is prior to language.
Yeah.
So language comes in and it's all over, and that includes these lies that I'm telling too. But folks, I'm lying to the very top of my ability. I mean, I'm a professional liar. So these are not your everyday, ordinary, half-baked lies. These are really strongly considered and God-approved lies.
The best we can use symbols to try to point the ineffable. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but when I woke up to the truth, and it was like, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing I noticed was, well, there's nothing to talk about.
I know.
But the second thing I noticed, and this is not just kind of a joke, but then shortly thereafter, what I noticed was that the trying to do so, the attempt to talk about this, was simply the most exquisite thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Hence what we're doing here right now.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. It's just, there's nothing better. I mean, really, I have satsang on Sundays, and I walk into satsang and there's a bunch of people there, and it's just like, it's like taking a shower or a bath. It's just warm shower. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Like a warm shower.
Yeah.
Or like a loving hug from
right.
From mom. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
This is so well said. This is great. Another sort of way to just briefly touch on the spiritual addict part is
let's have it.
I just like how Tony Parsons calls them spiritual lollipops.
Yeah, right.
Just like it's like on the next, yeah, on the next one. But there's also the, like what you mentioned with Socrates, who was called the wisest man
Wisest man in Athens.
at Athens because he knew nothing.
Yes.
And that's why Nisargadatta Maharaj also, said that the love is everything, and being everything, knowing being that, and the wisdom is knowing that you're nothing, and then your life flows between the two as well.
But his quote, well, Nisargadatta is my core teacher, and what he said was, I breathe in and I am everything. I breathe out and I am nothing.
Nothing.
And between those two, my life turns, which is just so beautiful, because that really addresses what you were talking about earlier with the simultaneity of things.
Yes.
Because we can tend to go, when we come to see the truth, we've been living as a human being all of our lives. No, I knew I was Fred Davis, and I knew that a Fred Davis looked just like this until I was about 52. And somewhere around in there, it was discovered that I was not a Fred Davis after all, and that there not only was not a Fred Davis here, there never had been one here. There's only this, but when we say only this, we can have a tendency to feel that we're talking about manifestation. And I would say in my teaching, honestly, consciousness, God, and manifestation are synonyms.
Yep.
But awakeness is that which is prior to all of those things. Awakeness it's unnameable, but I'm just going to try because that's so exquisite. That it is the potentiality. It's by its very absence that there is room for all this presence.
Yeah, the silence between the notes of music.
The silence between the notes. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because we have a tendency to think we disregard silence. We disregard space.
Yeah. Yep.
We're all caught up in the content of this rising.
Yeah.
Wow. What noun will come next? Right? What will happen next? But I have buried. I don't see it. What a shame.
You can take your time to find it. You got it?
Oh yeah, I got it.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So, and this comes about because what we think that space is just this annoying thing that is in between everything and everything else. But when we start to looking at oneness, when we start really looking at oneness objectively, then I can't help but notice, I mean, how many spaces do you count right now?
Mm-hmm.
One.
Mm-hmm.
Space is not what holds everything apart from everything else. Space is is the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah, beautiful.
So you can look at this and it's two black faces and a goblet, or it is the two black faces with a white background, or a goblet with a black background.
And that's called the Rubin vase, I believe.
Okay, and so it's a Rubin vase. So which of these is true?
Exactly. That's
both.
Yeah.
I mean, both or neither. Either way you want to put it, but you can't say one or the other, because it just doesn't work like that. And this doesn't work like that because where we're living is relativity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And everything exists only by comparison to something else. Like, you're pretty sure I'm a Fred Davis because you've seen me on YouTube and this and that and the other. But the other thing is, you're pretty sure that this isn't Fred Davis. So it's very easy to home in on this part and say, oh, there's Fred, and the rest of that is not Fred. But there's no opposite to you. There's just you. It's non-duality already.
Yeah.
And we can tend to get lost in the idea that I'm just the vastness. Oh, I'm just the vastness. Who cares about the unit is what I call the bodies. Who cares about the unit? But the we are not merely the vastness, nor are we merely the little man. We're both.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the experience from the absolute that obviously relativity just doesn't matter. But relativity is our experience, and we honor it. If we do not honor it, we do so at there will be suffering will ensue. Mm. But it's not that we are this one or we are that one. There's not a this or that. There's just the nameless, and there's no opposite to that nameless. Mm-hmm. And so but that nameless is both duality, the sense of the dualistic and non-dualistic at the same time. In other words,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. So there's this experience where obviously, for me, obviously, this is all me. This is there's nothing but me. But then this is me too, because this is an experience. The Fredness story continues. Thank goodness.
And right? This is what happened, 1,000+ years ago. It was how do we put into one symbol? How do we put the non-dual and the dual into one symbol? And that's what you just pulled up a moment ago, the yin and yang.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, and that's what you were explaining from multiple faces of the mountain was just at a moment ago. And you gave the Rubin vase example, and there's a couple places that I'd like to just go back to a little bit a moment ago. You were saying that there's these two things that were great that you mentioned, that sort of what happens when there's this satori or moksha or nirvana, whatnot, that the realization, as you quote Lao Tzu a lot, we do as well. You do realize that the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. And Lao Tzu also said that those who know don't talk, and those who talk don't know. And that's another way to put it as well. And so you learn that both there's nothing to talk about, like you said, but then the second thing is that you learn that the attempt to try to talk about the ineffable is the warm shower.
That's what makes life worth living, so to speak.
It is, because, and we basically, what we do is we play when we talk, when we attempt.
That's all I can see
at the ineffable.
I'm with you.
It's a divine play. Yeah, it's that Leela when we're attempting using these symbols to play with that ineffable. It is the warm shower. It is that hug. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Someone and we'll excuse them on technical errors, but someone once put it very sweetly when they said that to talk about this with someone else on the same level, so to speak. I mean, someone else who's seen the truth, that is the embodiment of it.
Yeah. That's such a good way to put it. Yeah. We call it tennis. This is another way to it's tennis. And and just kind of hitting the volleys over, and it's just so playful. And
because there's just a zillion balls behind us.
I know.
Somebody hits a volley and the ball is just so interesting. I don't have any interest in hitting it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Nor do I have the power to hit it, but it's a fascinating ball, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Wow. Like one of the core, potentially, we could say, if we want to, just most beautiful aspects to the appearance is when the tennis players themselves are really strong, advanced, maybe, world-class level tennis players, where it is the most beautiful, where the game of tennis that's being played is so close to the ineffable. Yeah.
It bumps your game to play with a great tennis player.
Yes.
And I think that this is the reason that Nisargadatta said that the only thing that was really necessary for awakening was to spend time in the company of sages.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean it's actually going to rub off, but there's a good chance that there will be a falling in. There will be a, oh, you know, and that, and right, we're actually this.
Yeah. Oh, and in 2020, I spent a lot of time on just full-time dedicating myself to truth, just nonstop as a full-time job, and studying these geniuses that have lived and died before us, and not just spiritual ones, but also the scientific ones, the engineer ones, the inventor ones, because it's also interesting to see their patterns as well. And so the sort of Satori that was just about a month ago now, that just it creates that, this is probably a good segue into that, where there is no longer an atlas.
Right. Yeah. Actually, it's not that there's no longer an atlas. It's the seeing that there never was an atlas.
there never was one. Yeah.
Because that's our problem is, well, what will happen to Fred when Fred wakes up? Well, don't worry about it, because Fred will never wake up. Awakeness itself wakes up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Awakeness wakes up to the fact that, hell, I've been looking for a noun. I've been looking for, because they told me look for something that doesn't come and go, and I went looking for something that doesn't come and go. It never dawned on me that everything here comes and goes, other than the space which holds it, right? And it's spaciousness that we're really talking about, not space in the outer space kind of way, but spaciousness. And that, of course, is what we really are. Nothing can exist without this spaciousness. And spaciousness is the mirror in which all the reflections appear. And this is a pair of reflections coming to have some high-minded conversation about the mirror.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you believe in mirrors? I'm not sure I believe in mirrors, said the reflection. But the reflection can't exist in the absence of a mirror. So it's coming to see, well, it's not that we come to see the truth, it's that the truth comes to see.
Yeah. Oh man. And the game that the truth plays to come to see is so fascinating. Within this appearance, there is nothing else that I've ever encountered where there's an ability for a singularity to veil itself and then to pierce that veil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the coolest feature.
Well, and then we recognize that it's the veilless veil.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
It's just like my bubble of self-reflection. Well, there's no bubble there.
Yeah.
It's the bubbleless bubble, just like it's the gateless gate, right?
Yeah. The veilless veil, the gateless gate. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, that's such a fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And because it comes right back to what you were talking about with the simultaneous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We simultaneously experience, there's an experience of something that can only be reported as a gateway. And it was just absolutely remarkable. But then it's recognized there's no gate to the gate. This must be the reason they call it the gateless gate. It's
Yes.
because there's no gate. Oh, how about that? We know, when they said it was the gateless gate, it was like, what do they mean by that? Ooh, well, okay. I want to get my teeth into that. I want to figure that out. But in fact, there was nothing complex about it. They were just saying, well, it's a gateless gate. What does that mean by that? Well, this is it. But it's so simple that these big complex brains of ours, they don't want to hear that. They want something to gnaw on. They want something that the brain can achieve.
I'm so loving the veilless veil and the gateless gate. And my question / thought to you around that would be something like, yet simultaneously, as we hold that, we also recognize that when we do the practices that are things like a Theravada Buddhism silent 10-day meditation retreat, no talking, no eye contact, just going inward and making ourselves less reactive with the monkey mind, and sort of gaining that real subtlety that's sort of needed to be able to understand things like this as well. That there are these, in a sense, whether you also read the Tao Te Ching or the Old and New Testament, or you take some entheogens, maybe some psilocybin to undergo some of this flow. Whatever these sort of faces are on the mountain, in a sense, at the same time, we recognize that the more sometimes of these different tastes that we have, the in a sense, the more robust of a lattice work that we have that enables us to better and better sort of recognize this, which is maybe this is one of the things that I feel about Neo-Advaita specifically, that is, it's beautiful in its direct pointing, yet at the same time, to somebody in a state of maybe an egoic level of a contracted energy in the bubble, that there can also be like little the whole thing about the incremental path versus the sudden path and whatnot. So how do you feel as well about, while we talk about this veilless veil and the gateless gate, that there are also this idea of sort of building up a a nomenclature or a lexicon, a concept framework, these types of things across these different perennial wisdoms?
I think we've had that confused for a long time, and here's why I think that
Okay.
is that we've been pointing toward, is it this or is it like that? And it's not like this or that, it's this and that. So what we amounts to is awakening an event or a process? It's both. It may not be a recognized event. I mean, I've woken up with, I've had hundreds of people wake up with me, and the awakenings range from, oh my God, to, you're kidding. One of the clearest humans I know woke up with me saying, you're kidding. No. And then right after that, he went, oh, I can't, because he's been a spiritual teacher and everything, and gone around the world and this and that and the other. He just left out the know who you are part. But when he woke up, there was such context there that he just blew everything off the map, right? He just woke up and it was just thump. And it doesn't, you don't have to be a teacher for 30 years for that to happen, but it doesn't hurt, right? Or to be a speaker for 30 years, it doesn't hurt. But what we can notice about when we look at, let's say, traditional Advaita compared to what we call Neo-Advaita or sudden awakening, and we go all the way back to Zen in China, and it was like, we had the Southern school and the Northern school. Northern people said it was an event, the Southern people said it was a process. Anybody that I talk to has been awakening for some time. And
Yeah.
with me, they come and they recognize this. And what they really recognize is not that they've been awakening, but they really come to recognize that they are awakeness itself. And that's the difference, because we talk about I'm awake, but she's not, or he's awake, but I'm not. But this awake, not awake thing, what's that? What's that? Oh, it's duality, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what
You gave the analogy in one of your recent talks where you said that it's like you get out of bed in the morning, you're rubbing your eyes and opening up, and somebody's there going, "Wake up!" It's like, I'm already awake. Yeah, yeah.
That's it, right? Exactly. What shall I do to convince you that I'm awake? And that's what I like to turn that on tables on that. And sometimes I'll ask people, is there any way, if you had to right now, and you had to convince me that you were not awake, how would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't think about it because we come at it through the front door, which is how can I be oneness? I mean, I'm just this little thing over here.
Yeah.
How can I be oneness? But when we come at it from being oneness, when this teaching, I only work with myself, right?
Yeah.
That's what's happening here.
Yep.
That oneness is talking to oneness about oneness because there's no one else to talk and there's no other subject.
Yeah.
And right?
Yeah.
But here, the obvious is obvious. That's all. The obvious is always there's the ability to break through and see the obvious. And how does that work? We talk about, and I even talk about breakthroughs and breakthrough phrases and stuff like this. But it's not breaking through. It's noticing that there's nothing to break through. That there's no wall there. That we haven't reached the top of the mountain. There was never a mountain, and we're just walking along the beach with everything just flat as right. But we've been making up mountains, and we've been making up adventures about them.
Would it be fair to say that both the simultaneity with the mountain and the beach are at the same time, as in the most non-dual is the beach, and then the dualistic concession is that there's this mountain? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm right with you.
Okay.
So, but we spend all of our time, put all of our attention on the mountain.
Yeah.
We don't put any time at all on the beach. The ocean is just teeming with life and all this stuff, and we're like, it's just water, man. This mountain is what's really cool. And so we spend all of our time caught up in the content of this arising, and instead of what is it that is experiencing the content of this arising.
Yeah.
That's the only thing worth looking for. And you don't need to look for it. You just need to notice it.
Yeah.
Because I heard when I was coming along, the seeker never wakes up. And I heard that and I thought, now that's a good thing to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend to stop seeking, because you can't find it as long as you're looking for it. So I pretended to not look for it in the hopes that somehow it would trick God into showing herself, right? Mm-hmm. And but I couldn't even fake it. It was just I was just doomed to seek. That's what I mean. I had no choice. I'm sure you didn't either. I mean, it just drove me. It drove everything.
Yep.
Right. It did. It told me what time I was going to bed at night, what time I was getting up in the morning, what I was going to do that day, and all of that. I mean, it was just this constant, please.
Yeah.
Right. And it's to be just like me right now, asking you. So, Atlas, tell me, how do I get to the chair in my study?
Yeah, this is funny. I like this one as well. Yeah.
And you're going, well, Fred, you're already in your chair in your study.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Atlas. I appreciate that, and I understand that. I'm on board with that, but it's not just not my experience that I'm in my chair in my study. So what directions would you suggest now? Right? There's no, we just, there is no giving directions to hear.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's no giving directions to hear.
And that's what everybody's asking for. Could you please direct me toward here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could. I could charge him money for it.
Yeah. You sign up for my subscription service.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, to hear.
Yeah, that's right. But
so many perverse incentives around that. Oh, I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So there's there's two things. One of them is Saint Francis of Assisi says that which you seek is that which is seeking.
That's correct.
And then the other one is posted these a little while ago as well, that Ramana Maharshi says that God is the subject. He is the seer. Don't concern yourself with objects that can be seen. Find out who the seer is. Mm-hmm. And then Punja says the desire for self/God realization is like an inner flame. One must kindle it and then fan it until it becomes a raging fire, which consumes all one's other desires and interests.
And well, and what I would say to that is he's right, if that's what that unit needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is what it sounds like both of ours, had. It just consumed
us. It is.
Yeah.
It perfectly explains where we were, but it doesn't explain everybody. So the thing is
exactly.
Yeah. These days, I actually get quite a number of students. I mean, they don't knock on the door every day, but I get a lot of people that come to me who have already awakened. And there's a lot of what I call inherent wakefulness there, but there's no real clarity.
So can you describe this? So inherent wakefulness, but no clarity. What does this mean?
In other words, there's been an awakening event. And now the character has a memory of that awakening event. And it's a very, very detailed, deep sort of memory about something very much like a spiritual awakening.
Okay.
But a spiritual awakening can't be remembered because there's no one there to remember it. Right? So it's a character's report on the tail end of some kind of experience where, wow, it was really different. And for Fred.
Yeah.
But I have sometimes, once in a while, I mean, I have people that will, and I'm not doing private sessions now, but I did them for a long time. And
you stopped doing them? I didn't know that.
Well, I've become overrun. Yeah. And it's just too much of a physical burden for this old man. Yeah. So I still am doing, I still meet with regular students in I have something called the continuing students program, where I have a bunch of people that come and talk to me once a month.
That's your satsang?
It's the people inside. No, there's the people who have come and have one-on-one sessions with me once a month. These are people that I'm sort of caretaking. And and I also, and then I have what I call now is this is a new development, which is the Skillful Means programs, or series, which is I do 3 sessions in 3 successive Saturdays, but I'm doing it with 20 people instead of 1.
Okay.
Cool. Right? Because I just can't. The world would like more of Fred than there is Fred, and I keep moving the prices up, and it just doesn't touch anything. You know, I mean, there's still somebody that will pay nearly anything for this, and it just got to be. I'd rather do it for a bunch of people.
For a bunch of and then field questions as well at the end.
The next 2 sessions of this, the following, the first session. The good news is they don't get to talk. And because the biggest problem that I had in one-on-one awakening sessions was that everybody wanted to make sure that I understood their issue and where their special self was coming from. And I needed to know about this about their childhood and this about that. And they couldn't understand it from this and can see it from that. So in other words, people would pay me a bunch of money to help them wake up my way. And they would come to me, and what they were really wanting me to do is pay me a lot of money to wake them up their way.
Yeah.
Without noticing. And I would sometimes point out, well, let's look here. There's two of us here. One of us has been in, let's just say, 1,000 awakening sessions. And the other one has been in, how many have you been in? A one? Yeah. Well, who do you think we should be listening to?
Yep.
Right? It's, they want to help. And I did the same thing. I did exactly the same thing. I was just that kind of fool. I cut a fool with Adyashanti. I was awake, but I couldn't help it. It was Adyashanti. Oh my God. And I wanted him to see just how awake I was. And that was actually more important than my question, was for Aja to notice that I was awake and all this.
Wow.
And I get that too. And, so what you're really looking, you're in the guise of asking the question, what the question you're really asking is, will you give me confirmation of my awakening?
Yeah.
And sometimes people come to me that I right out the gate that I can see, and I can give them confirmation, but I never give confirmation if it hasn't occurred. And most of the people in search of confirmation are not awake. Because what I noticed is that by the time you get confirmation, you don't really need it. It's nice to have it. It's nice to have a teacher say, okay, you got it, this, that, and the other. And I've had a bit of that, but it's unnecessary because you already know who you are.
Yeah.
So the confirmation of one empty unit to another empty unit is of marginal value.
Yeah. There's another component to what we were just talking about, which is it's probably the most important, at least in my understanding, of what is happening here, which is that in the recognition of the tennis players that are doing at high levels, using symbols to play with the ineffable, we recognize that there's the simultaneity in that there's this sort of non-dual beach as well as this dual mountain, and that
the experience of both. Yes.
Yeah. And that this is sort of where the we already are the diamond necklace around our neck. Only those that are ignorant seek what's already there. It sort of meets with the, well, what are we talking about with that diamond necklace when there is that contracted egoic entity that doesn't understand that.
So, and the thing that we have to come to recognize is that the egoic entity that we think we are, that we think that exists, because there's no one there. There's no entity that's ever going to get it. So what we have is we have an imaginary character who has pinned all of his hopes on the idea that one day, if I keep at this, I'm going to come to recognize that I'm an imaginary character. You can't get there from here. It can't happen. So it is the seeing through. The bubble of self-reflection is where most people are when they come to me. They've been in this a while, and have come to have and it's even beyond just purely intellectual, but they have a grasp of this that we're speaking of. There's a and they do have a very good intellectual understanding. And we play the intellectual down too much. I think there's value in that.
Yeah.
Because I use the mind to go beyond the mind, but I got to start with the mind. I use the body to go beyond the body. I use logic to go beyond logic, but we got to start with tools here. Mm-hmm. And there is, I forgot what we're talking about now. That's what happens, is that this Fred will, from awakeness, will go to get some coffee, and then you're left with Fred, and he has nothing to share with you.
Yeah.
He has a lot to share, but nothing that you would want to hear. So what were we talking about?
Well, that's the true sign as well, where there's so much divine play that is where there's been that recognition of that diamond necklace around the neck, to the degree of which we recognize how playful it is to be able to say, great, let's hit some tennis balls in the ineffable, and then let's just completely, maybe we play in some other way, and
right.
there's
let's try it without rackets.
Without rackets, yeah. Let's use our feet for a little while.
Let's
and
let's try it without balls.
Without balls, exactly. And that's why the way that you express yourself is in a very playful, and it's in a very childlike, and you have, and that's another big sort of highlight. If there were, quote, highlights of awakened or enlightened, it has a lot to do with happiness. It has a lot to do with peace. It has a lot to do with childlike play.
It has a lot to do with that afterward, but it doesn't have necessarily anything to do with that prior to. Yeah. I mean, I find that misery is the door most.
Yeah. Suffering's the drill sergeant, and then
Yeah. Let me get back to the thing that I was talking about a minute ago when I lost my train of thought. Because I was talking about the bubble of self-reflection. So Bob comes to me, and Bob already knows that. So and they already know there's no Bob. So they come to me, and then I start going on about that there's no Bob thing, and they're going, when is he going to get to the good part? I mean, because this is driving me crazy. I already know all this. And I have to just be very humble and kowtow to the ego to try to get it to stay with me long enough for understanding to take place. And when the understanding with a capital U occurs, what is recognized, has been recognized by me, but it's it's recognized by me over there as well, which is that the one who knows there is no Bob is Bob. And that is the booby prize of non-duality. Welcome. You have worked yourself all the way to the booby prize. I'm not telling you that it's no prize at all. It's that can be useful. You can moderate suffering from that place, but it's not true. So coming to see that the only thing that counts is when awakeness comes to see that there is no Bob, and that not only Bob didn't just leave the room, there's no Bob, there was never any Bob. And that when we talk about the fact that when I say that you are the unborn, that's not a pointer. It's just a comment, like I would say, I like your headphones. You are the unborn. So, and I tell you that you are the unborn, and then the born wants to know what's he pointing at there, right? It's just like they tell me, so Fred, you actually are the awake space. I heard that. The space is emptiness. You are the aware space. I heard these things. And the only problem was I just didn't know which space they were talking about. But I did know which space they could be talking about, which was this one. But there's only this space. So any idea that I'm going to leave this space to find this space, good luck with that. But you're going to have how long can awakeness look for awakeness without having any luck? Forever. It appears that seems to be the way of it for most people. And your sources say 15% of the people will get it. That's fine with me. I don't care. I just think that's high from my experience, but it doesn't make any difference. Some percentage come awakeness through certain, and it's not like the unit comes to see that. It's awakeness that comes to see that, oh, there's no Fred. There's never been a Fred. Fred is not going to get this. Fred is not going to capture this and be able to show it off, which is what Fred really wanted. Because it was like, I wanted to be the one who achieved enlightenment and have the teacher notice that I had achieved enlightenment. And teacher put a gold star by Fred's name, and also give me a big gold star and put it on my forehead, so everybody can see that I'm the special one who achieved enlightenment.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
down the tube.
That's so funny.
This thing works backwards than the way that we think it does. All of non-duality, the truth. Let's put it that way. The truth works backwards in the way we think it does. And that's the reason you can't teach a unit how to wake up. It's probably, the unit is never going to wake up. This meat does not have the capacity to be enlightened meat. Just like this water glass has no capacity to be an enlightened water glass. But it's not about the glass, it's about the water. And for this walking cadaver, it's not about the cadaver, it's about the animating presence.
Yeah, you've used that before, the animating presence. Yeah. Will you unpack that for us again?
So the animating presence is simply what you can notice right now is, everybody can do this, just notice that there is that sense of aliveness we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That there's a sense of aliveness here. And there's a sense, it's just like a sense of being here, whatever. I'm not even saying what here is. I'm just saying there's a sense of being, and I'm going to say the feeling will be, there's a sense of being here. And what we think we are is we think we're the vehicle through which that feeling occurs. But we think that is occurring to the vehicle instead of through the vehicle. In other words, I really think there's a Fred over here, and I've got myself some very high-minded knowledge about non-duality, and it says Fred, and you don't understand it. So, well, let me help you, because now I have the enlightened Fred helping these poor other units who just kind of slow units just can't seem to get it, and they will never get it as long as there is an ego. They may wake up in spite of that teaching, but they won't wake up because of it. As long as there is, if the teacher believes that they are the enlightened ones, whatever, you're dead in the water before you even enter the room. It doesn't mean those people can't be helpful. They can. It doesn't mean we shouldn't have them, because I know that we do. But I noticed that the percentages, let me just take all religions, take all and spiritual circles. And out of all those, how many people really break through? Our numbers are pretty good now. There's you and me and a bunch of other people we know. And lots of bunches. And I know about people in other continents and all this and that and the other. And man, we could fill up a football stadium. Okay, maybe we could fill up 5 of them. I don't know. But I don't think there's that many more of us.
Just to also to make sure that on the statistics thing, it's approximately 1% or so are recognizing the agentless or the attributeless.
Yeah.
And then about 15 or so percent or 14 or so percent are on the observer or the witness that is experiencing the waves. So the ocean experiencing the waves. And then the 85% or so are on that I'm a separate biological creature. So that was the
okay. Yeah, I had that mixed up. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's why it makes more sense now, because it's
Yes,
just
right.
it's a couple football stadiums or whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
There
And
may be a bunch of them, but we can still measure it with football studies.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there was probably also another aspect to this, which is that animating presence is what is kind of the beach. It's what everybody, in a sense, has as a sense of being or an aliveness, although it's maybe to different degrees of that, like, aliveness. But then that 1% is more like the top of the mountain, where there is a quote, somebody that's a Fred Davis that is able to host this satsang, where he also brings in dozens of people into it so that they gain a little bit more of the journey up the mountain, while again it's also a beach. The beach is
Yeah.
like, yeah. And so
Right.
to hold these at the same time is very critical. And I think one of the next things also for us to touch on is that the the same way, and this usually is really helpful for people to sort of get the the in a sense, it's like a gondola ride up to the mountaintop, and then the recognition of the beach. And so the way that sort of also uh, happens is that when you do things like give these analogies with things like the dream, where for a third of our lives we're sleeping, and then we simulate out a dreamed environment that we take a first person perspective into, and there's no difference between the observer there and its physical environment, that those are one thing. The entire thing, as you walk past the tree, as you walk past it and you keep going in the dream, that tree doesn't stay there. And so in the dream, and so the analogy to draw for this as well is that this is on as above so below, that this is, in a sense, we could say, God's dream or infinite
Yes.
consciousness's
So,
dream.
so,
Yeah.
so the core dream is when we started getting this thing, then it was, oh God, it's all a dream. I can't believe it. It's Fred and Atlas's dream.
Yeah.
But when we really get it, then there's the recognition, oh hell, Fred and Atlas are the dream. That's the dream. Is I'm dreaming that I'm a Fred.
I'm dreaming that I'm a Fred. There you go. Yeah.
I awakeness. I'm dreaming that I'm a Fred and
Yeah.
that I'm having all these adventures. But
Yeah.
right, and there's
Yeah.
a sense of that. But
Yeah.
I played with virtual reality, and there's a sense that I could move imaginary blocks and stack them on top of other imaginary blocks. There's that sensation and everything. You can see it.
Exactly.
But it's not. That's an experience. It's not. This experience is a good teacher, but it's not necessarily true always either. It's very much like the sense of being. There's a sense of being. Is that the same thing as saying I am being? It's really not. There's a sense of being. That's a statement unto itself. There is a as long as we think that this is my dream and how can I break out of this dream, we're screwed. Right? Because I mean, that's what I wanted. I wanted out. I was suffering and I wanted out of that dream. And then what I got out of was being a Fred.
Yeah. If what
I noticed, oh, well, I'm not dreaming that I'm a Fred any longer. And the facts on the ground may remain the same, but I noticed that none of them pertain to me. Because I am the awakeness. I am the animating presence. I am unborn, just exactly what it says. The whatever it is that's talking through this unit right now, it's not on planet. It's not on planet. Its mother's name was not Olive. Mm-hmm. It has no mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's the recognition of the white source light that is refracted through the diamond here and there, and that is taking on that unique coloration
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And but to go with the mountaintop, to go inward to the source, again, it's a very much a self-abiding style process that leads to this Atma Vitra. It's not something to say that this is one of the things that I see with the sort of Neo-Advaita and the pointing out is that it's great to have this sudden style of recognition of the diamond necklace already around the neck. And yet it's also important to recognize that, like we were saying a little bit earlier, just that when you do take the 10 days to just zip and say no words and just go all the way down to the roots of the monkey mind and make yourself less reactive and give yourself more of that pause.
So let's be. We want to be careful about from my standpoint.
Yes.
I would want to be very, very careful with language because
Yes.
I can't make myself be anything, given the fact that I'm not.
Yeah, and that's
it allows for change to take place, but I'm not doing the changing.
Yeah, and this is sort of the next subject as well, which is in that dream analogy itself, that when one recognizes that agentless or that attributeless, then the whole idea of free will just dissolves. And that's another, yeah.
Because what the philosophers are asking themselves is, do we have free will or do we not? And they've been debating about it for thousands of years. And I have a different question. And my question is, who are they talking about?
Yeah. Who are they talking about?
Who are they talking about?
Because if the answer,
there's no one here to be enlightened, or there's no one here to have free will, and there's no one here to not have free will. The whole thing is a story, and it's a story that keeps you off. It keeps your eye off the camera. You're so busy looking at the birdie that the photographer's got over there that you don't look at the camera.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, which is why Ramana said to pay attention to the seer, because when you ask the question, who are they talking about? Because that can lead somebody to recognition that, oh, my individual contracted ego, and then that leads to further recognition that that is a that's hilarious, that's the thinking process, versus if the answer is something like God or infinite consciousness and these appearances of expressions, that then the question of free will dissolves. It becomes more and more of a of that question of who are they talking about that would have that. There's nobody here to have it or not have it, like you're saying. That way of putting it, it's an imaginary character is another way that you've said it as well, which has been helpful.
I mean, the one who desperately wants to wake up. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Just that the imaginary character has been another way that it's been helpful. It's like in a sense, it's like if another potentially good way to say it is that it's anarchic, right? That there's like an anarchic expression to the non-dual, and that to sort of then ascribe that, oh, well, there's going to be this meaning or this purpose to that anarchicness, or that there's going to be these layers of identity around this one that is this Atlas one, and that Fred one, and that there's going to be these very real seeming layers of identity and these real seeming layers of expression and appearance to it, and that there's all this meaning and all of this purpose to it. And it's not to say that it's definitely not in the nihilism has a lot of baggage and negative connotation. That's why the whole like metaphysical anarchy, it sort of vibes a little bit more like clearly, Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that would be a good place to sort of um, run with you for a bit, is that how do things like metaphysical anarchy as a descriptor of the ineffable non-dual, how does that, of the mystery, how does that resonate with you?
So I understand the phrase, and I think that it's a helpful phrase, but we just want to be careful because I have a lot of helpful phrases too, and none of them are true.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
What can we do? What can we do?
I have
Yeah, yeah.
I have because this teaching is very, very direct, but I know people who I don't know them personally, but I know of a couple of teachers that have that take an even more direct approach where it's just almost ignoring relativity. And the I feel like these phrases, they give us a handhold, and I understand the purpose of a teaching for not giving anybody a handhold, and we need that teaching. It's great. I admire it. I respect it. Simultaneously, I noticed that there are not a lot of the people in the room going, oh, so much of that can become a personality cult. And I don't mean that in a bad way, cult. I just mean it can become a personality teaching or whatever if we're not careful, because it is fascinating.
Interesting.
But it's, for many people, those stark teachings, as I would call it, are not particularly helpful. And this teaching is, I know everything I'm saying is a lie, but what I find is I tell provisional truths, which is another way to take the burn off of the lie aspect of
Yeah, you
things.
said that earlier, the provisional truth. And I
Yeah,
really appreciate how often that you're saying this over and over again, which is that I know everything that I'm saying is a lie.
yeah,
It's so interesting. Yeah.
yeah. That's it. I mean, the people pay me to lie to them, and then but remarkably, even more remarkable
Wait.
than
It's
that.
both. It's both, because you're there. It's both that everything that we're saying is a lie because the ineffable can't have symbols to describe it. Yet it's also true in the sense that there it the non-dual appearance of what this is all just happening, and so it is also the simultaneous just truth of expression of it.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's
Yeah,
all it's always both and.
yeah.
It's never one or the other, and that's what people really want, and they
Yeah.
want to. Would you just spit it out? I just did. But would you tell me, is it like this or is it like this?
Mhm.
And it's like, it's not like either one of those. Well, it's got to be one or the other. And that's what they're open to hearing, is
Mhm.
one of their theories or the other one of their theories. But there's not so much openness in hearing what's true, which is, well, both of those things are true. Depends on where you're looking from. I mean, just like our model of with the two faces, you call it
The
something
Rubens vase, yeah.
Rubens face, just
Yeah.
like the Rubens face is that which is true. Well, I mean, it's both true, neither is true, but but certainly it wouldn't be true to say that one is the truth over the other.
Yeah, to say that the two black faces or the vase, the two black faces or the white vase, one of
Yeah,
those is true, or neither is true, or both are true. That was a really great part. And another thing that you said, which was great, was that to be super careful when we say things like that, oh, the closest that we can get is that, oh, it's just simply this happening, or it's metaphysical anarchy, or whatever, that it becomes a personality teaching. I really
yeah, yeah,
appreciated you saying
yeah,
that as
yeah.
well.
It
Yeah.
does. And what we want to notice is that I'm going to say that I could. I was very lucky. I had some. I never stuck with any teacher for too long. Other after Eckhart Tolle, and he never met me. I never met him. So the it's hard to, but he's nonetheless, I would say he was my teacher for quite some time. I read his books, I listened to his CDs
Yeah.
over and over and over to just a nauseating degree, to an unhealthy degree. And but after that, I had a lot of help, but most of the help I've had, I felt like peaked. And then I found it not so helpful. And even Eckhart, I got to where I couldn't hear him for anything. I mean, I'd read his book and like, what in it? Because there was not enough directness there. But then on the other hand, there's too much directness. But the saying is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I like to modify that and say, when the student is ready, the teaching will appear.
Yeah.
If you're ready, the teaching that you can hear will appear. And the real miracle about my students and followers and stuff is simply that they found someone they can hear. And that's the great miracle. You know, I found somebody I could hear. I could hear Eckhart, but I couldn't move on from there. I just couldn't, I couldn't wake up.
Yeah.
And but I got a thorough schooling. And but straight from his arms, I went to other people that I didn't want to spend so much time with, but that I could hear them. And there was a very rapid movement of understanding. I mean, I was awake for 5 years before I ever started teaching, which is not a bad idea. I think it's typically ignored, but it's not a bad idea. But I wanted very much to be a teacher, and until I woke up and went to see Adyashanti, and I went, I don't think so, thanks. I didn't want to be after that. I didn't want to be a spiritual teacher, and within a month, the first person woke up while talking to me. I mean, it was just the instant I didn't want to be a teacher anymore, I became one. And then I tried to quit later on. It wouldn't let me do that either. So now I just embrace it completely. I love it. This is what I do. I wouldn't want to do anything else because there isn't anything else.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a cool part of your story is that process of even post Satori or moksha or nirvana, just sort of taking a time to just be that for even 5 years is so critical. Right after, for me, because we have this show and this channel, and in a sense, it's kind of it's like a lot of people are curious, like, okay, well, we're in a sense they're subscribing in a sense to also the interviewer as well. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of want to, so if the interviewer has underwent this Satori, it was important for me to share. And so then I went through this process of being like, this is crazy. There's going to be these couple, direct path teachings and these videos that we're now, undergoing, doing these many different faces to that one end that we've been talking about. But specifically with your journey, I really loved how you were just like, nope, this is not my thing, definitely not my thing. And then you're just in conversation with somebody and it just clicks for them. And you're just like, what could be cooler than literally having people have the click moment? Yeah.
Yeah. And there's you can kind of get addicted to that too.
Yeah.
Because it is extremely pleasurable. And there's, but the coming to see that I'm always waking up. I can't wake anybody up. People come to me that want me to make them wake up, and I can't make them. I can help them, and I have a lot of influence, enormous influence, but I can't make anybody do it. I used to have an AA sponsor who, I asked him one time, well, I don't know that they're really. So he wants to quit drinking, and he said, nah, he wants to quit drinking. And he said, all we can do is help them when they really want it. He said, if we could make them want it, we'd be millionaires. And that's the way this is that I can't make you want it enough. I can make it to where if you want it, it becomes like
exactly
pouring a glass of water. Right?
Exactly. Yep. And that's also why you said that, the perennial wisdoms go something like, when the student is ready, the teaching appears. But then the other interesting aspect to that is that when the student goes through this gateless gate, this veilless veil, that then the student themselves becomes, you kind of made that funny reference where the teacher puts a golden star on the student's head, which is so funny that there's that process. And then but then the student in itself turns and says, okay, well, now to sort of, to now that I've recognized that diamond necklace around the neck, it's like now there's sort of a process of like becoming a teacher as well to those that are ready also to,
and those who are drawn to it,
who are drawn to it. And then there's one more sort of part of that perennial wisdom that's so fascinating, which is that because as you know, the students teach you all the time as well. And so it's fascinating because that's why one of the perennial wisdoms is that the teaching is made through the process itself. And I think that's also
I tell people it's very hard for me. I mean, it's very hard for me to get too confused, because every couple of hours, one of you guys is going to pop in and straighten me out, right? Because I have multiple sessions a day. So I can only get so confused in between our sessions. Then I've got somebody coming in and teaching me fresh stuff. And it's like, oh, I see. And it's, people are paying me to keep me awake. It is a great racket.
That's so funny.
That's the truth. So
that's a great way to also.
I have a joke that that God decided when he looked down that so I'm going to go ahead and make that guy a teacher, but I can see this is a troublesome unit. So I think what we're going to have to do is we're not going to be able to wake him up once. We're going to have to wake up this one all the time, every 3 or 4 times, 5 times a day, whatever it is. So what are we going to do? So I'll make him a teacher, and then students will come to him and they'll wake his ass up 4 or 5 times a day.
Yep.
And that's the truth from the mouths of babes.
Even the one really good question there, from my also even just brief experience with this, even in the last just month, that when there's somebody there that is really truly like asking really good questions, which is usually what my role has been for the last 5 years, trying to get to this point, right? That's usually what the teachers tell me, is that they say that I can tell that you, by asking these really enthralling questions, that you're getting it, that you're and so
you're getting it, and so and the teaching is rising to another level in the face of skillful questions.
Yes.
Which is the same thing with non-dual inquiries. Is it just because ultimately it's only awakeness can inquire, because there's nothing but awakeness.
Yep.
But when we actively inquire, consciously inquire as awakeness, then it's completely different than actively inquiring as a Fred. right?
Totally
Trying to
believe
find out the secrets of Fred. And what is, because I thought, well, I thought Ramana was telling me, what is Fred really?
Yeah, I know, and that's the same thing with the with the Delphic maxim on the top of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi that says "Know thyself,"
Yeah,
because that's
right.
sort of in modernity, it's treated like the self-help thing, like with
Yes,
self-actualization.
that's
It's like
right. That's right.
know thyself. Oh, okay, cool. Who is Atlas? What is Atlas going to build into
That's
the
right.
world?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah, yes.
versus the inward process.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. The there is there, if you go into any bookstore, there's a big self-improvement section. I have, if my books are there, they are in the self-demolition section.
Yeah. The unsubscribed, the unteaching section. Yeah, exactly.
The unteaching, the unspiritual teachings.
Yeah.
It's because there's, it would be fine to have what are the self-actualization if there was a self here.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be
Yeah.
a
And
self
if you were doing it instead of it doing you.
instead of it doing you. That's right.
Yeah.
That's it. Because that's exactly that, which is that we all think that we contain consciousness. It's right up here.
Yeah.
And I got to protect this unit, because if this unit goes down, consciousness disappears. And but consciousness has got us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's consciousness that's really having the belly laugh right now.
Yeah.
That's who's always surprised by when awakening occurs. It's never the unit, it's never the character.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's always oneness.
Yeah.
Oneness is so surprised because in all of its grandeur and splendor, oneness just never even considered the idea that oneness looked like this.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
And I know that's a stretch, but if we look at it, I mean, the thing about oneness, the real tip off for me is that there is just one of them.
Yep.
So since there is just one of them, there's not room for a oneness and a Fred or oneness and an Atlas.
Yeah.
So what comes to be surprised is not Fred and Atlas, which is what we had in mind. Is it not? Right?
Yeah.
I can't wait for the shift. And but it's awakeness that is surprised. And because actually, if you look at it, I mean, it's a stretch to think that this is oneness. But since there's just one of them, is there any possible way that this is not oneness?
Yeah, like
it's a better question.
Like the fish that's going, where's the ocean? Where is it? And then once there's sort of that, and then it's like this relaxing and expanding that happens, and it's just so nice for
you got to be careful. You can end up with some lazy fish.
That's the middle path. That's the middle way. That's the tantric path. That's sahaja samadhi. You weave your enlightened realizations into the social fabric. This is the thing, is that there's this is always these jokes that we make, is that when if you and I were here in the same room together, and you were to say that, hey, Atlas, hand me the microphone, right? It's not like I'm going to say that there is no Atlas.
Oh, there's no Atlas here.
There's no Atlas here, and I'm not going to walk on the street and just pretend like that there's no cars that are going to be in.
Right.
And so there's this, in a sense, it's like this middle path where there's like the sweet spot. It's like the Goldilocks zone in a sense. And another way to think about it that I've seen with this mountain analogy that's been really fascinating is when you get to the snow, right? The snow can be sort of like what you think is like enlightenment a little bit, and the peak can be the absolute and whatnot. But with that snow portion of enlightenment, there's always, if you've heard about the people that go up Everest and whatnot, there are all of these crevices, and the crevices can be covered by the fresh snowfall. And so you don't even know that it's there. You step in and you've dropped 40, 50 feet to your death or something.
Right.
And so the idea is that to sort of as you as this sort of the musical notes are being played, is there's this like vigilance for these crevices where it's like it's not like I'm gonna just go and you become a lazy fish, as you said.
Thomas Jefferson said that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and I am in complete agreement.
Interesting. Price
Because
of freedom is eternal vigilance. Yeah.
That's it. There has to. This is all about vigilance.
And that's another sort of there's like the self-discipline community as well, like Jocko Willink and there's another one as well that has been making sort of profound waves, but they're sort of another way to describe what is being said with is discernment. Discernment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that eternal vigilance is just that. Yeah, discernment is, and that's why it was called neti, you know, not this, not that, but it is this, it is that, and like that's sort of like the closer and closer you get to that inevitable. So when somebody says, you know, well, maybe you should go and, you know, get your, you know, go and get a loan and go and get the next car, go and get the next house, you know, and it's like when you have discernment, you sort of recognize that no, it's not, I'm not seeking externally for a happy object to make me happy. I actually already know that I am that eternal happy that is within, and that that the discernment is critical. And even with the whole unsubscriptions aspect to it as well, you can think about it with that 3 pound arrogant organ that the inputs that come into in whether it be the drinks or the food or the information. If we're watching the polarization propaganda, that's going to be highly cancerous to any peace and to any happiness. And it has nothing, the polarization propaganda has nothing to do with both and. Has nothing to do with that philosophy or that understanding at all. Has only to do with I'm right and that they're wrong, and that and so there's just like, I'm glad that we're sort of on discernment here, and that, you know,
the lack of discernment is just astonishing.
Yeah, it is.
Right? I mean,
it is.
It's just there's so little actual discernment within spirituality. When you have lots and lots of followers who find something that they can follow and that does my discernment for me. And oh no, you put that in somebody else's hands. You take your spirituality and put it in somebody else's hands, you're in trouble. You can find somebody else who can help you with it, but but don't attempt to offload it, and that's what happens. Yeah, I have me a spiritual guy. Yeah, like I have a mechanic. I have a great mechanic, and I have a great spiritual guy I want to introduce you to. And it's you can turn over your spirituality to him. He'll show you the truth. Then you'll have it. You can go climb Everest. Like because if we're not careful, enlightenment can become just another item on a bucket list for ego. Because ego just wants to swim the Amazon, climb the Himalayas, and wants to do this deep sea dive and do all this stuff. And right there on the list somewhere, there's going to be an enlightenment, right? And for many, many people. And this is where I come in and I say, many awaken, but few clear.
Yeah.
I've helped people. I've helped a lot of people build up their bucket list, I mean, achieve a notch on their bucket list. But it was never my intention to do that. That was not what I was after, but it was what they were after. And I can't, there's little I can do about that. And not anything I should do, because that's what we need at this point. How do we know that's what we've got, right? And there's, you can argue with what is if you want to, but
no,
I can't recommend it.
No.
Yeah.
Fighting against the waves versus surfing on the crust. That's sort of the analogy. Yeah. When you say the awaken but not clear, it's in a sense a lot like what we were saying in the sort of analogy that we've been referencing throughout as well, which is that when that egoic contracted drop recognizes itself as the ocean, and it's the ocean experiencing the waves, that can be thought of as maybe there are these tastes, these light bulbs it's flickered, and then for it to sort of stay on, in a sense, the entire observer and experience, the witness and the experiencing process itself, is rejected as an appearance, as an illusion, as a dream, as Maya, and that the only thing that is no thing. It's all just indescribable, ineffable happening, and that this is that sort of last bit is what you could maybe say as clear. Yeah, that and
we come to see this thing. We come to see through ever more subtle layers, and which is what we're doing right now, because I don't want to. There are no rules to this thing, so I'm not making rules, folks. But I'm just going to tell you from my experience, which is pretty vast. Is that if you don't pursue this thing, you will lose it. In other words, you can't really lose what you are, but you sure think you did. You will experience that I had it and I lost it. And I spent 14 years in that predicament in between 1992 and 2006. And it's a miserable place to be. And I mean, I was awakened for 5 minutes and I wanted to rest on my laurels for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right. That, I've got it. Fred's got it now, but there's no one here to get it.
Mm-hmm.
There's getting it. And there's this present verb of getting it, but there's no one here that's got it. And everybody is so interested in graduating from spirituality that they don't want to go to school.
Yeah, and also to recognize that there isn't even the graduation process. I'm sure you can say this, is that there is no graduation.
That's exactly it. There's no graduation. No.
Yeah, that there's the moment that we in a sense stop fanning the fire is the moment that maybe that there is a contraction can come back, or a layer of identity can in a sense come back. I know that there's this that there is this piercing of the veilless veil, the gateless gate, that does when that happens, that many people say that there's no going back, that kind of a thing, but there is also a going back.
There is. You cannot unsee this thing, but you can experience that you did. Because all you have to do is make it an object that the unit had. Fred woke up. Something. Now you can go ahead and start treating me as an enlightened being if you'd like. I mean, which means deference, please. And right.
Grapes.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was looking for. I didn't get that. I was hot on the spiritual trail in the hopes that, I could make some money and get some girls, right? And it's I wish it were less shallow. but that was a lot of my motivation. And it was a lot of my motivation for a long time. And which is, I mean, of course, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But these things do what they do.
Yeah.
And, and the thing is that it's all about just like a flower vase. You can have a beautiful vase and that's nice, or you can have a tin can. It's really about the flowers. It's not about the vase. And this is a tin can if ever there was one. But it's not about the tin can. It's about the flowers.
Yeah.
And and awakeness has no pride. You just as soon use an old tin can as a shiny new blown glass vase.
Interesting. So Francis Lucille, who was the teacher of Rupert Spira,
Yep.
Francis has this great expression. He calls it the eternal fireworks of the happening. And it's interesting in what you just said, Fred. You say that rather than the vase, it's that the flower of it. And it's interesting because with the fireworks can be thought of as it's that fireworks and not the cartridge that's it gets sent up in.
And we got a bunch of vases, and all the other vases have beautiful flowers too. And they're looking at this vase, and they're the central, and they're thinking, God, what beautiful flowers! How could I get there?
Yeah, exactly.
How can I change myself into becoming beautiful flowers?
Yeah,
and they're already beautiful flowers.
There are already a dozen beautiful flowers looking at your beautiful flowers, saying that,
That's right.
how can I get some of those beautiful flowers?
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. You're already a gorgeous firework looking at another gorgeous firework, wondering, how can I be a gorgeous firework?
How can I make noise and color like that, right?
Yeah.
How can I really charm people like that, or whatever? And it's like, well, when I told you I wanted to try to stop teaching, because when I went to see Aja, and I was awake when I got there, but I wasn't, but the clarity then was nothing like it is.
Yeah. Yep.
And what happened was I didn't want to teach because I couldn't figure out how I answered all those questions. Right? I mean, it looked to me like the most stressful job in the world, because somebody lob a question at him. Yeah. In my own mind, I'd be having to go, well, let me think about that a little bit. And what can I put together to answer this question successfully, or whatever? It never dawned on me that it wasn't Aja answering, that it was certainly coming through Aja-ness.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's the thing itself. It's just, I sometimes say this is like a Pillsbury Doughboy. You poke it in the stomach and words come out. That's the same thing with this. You push it in the stomach and words come out. But it had nothing to do. But this unit had nothing to do with the formulation of those words, except for that there's, because the bodies themselves are conditioning. So that conditioning is going to influence what comes out. Like I'm telling you the truth, the greatest truth that I can, but at the very best, it's the straight truth plus the Fred spin. They can't not be Fred spin on it, because it's coming through this unit, and there's conditioning there that affects it. And that conditioning is, these bodies want to get rid of all their conditioning, but better watch what you want there, because the bodies are conditioning itself. And if you succeed in getting rid of all your conditioning, then the unit will pass. The unit will die, because the unit itself is conditioning. And but it feels like I've got to get rid of all my conditioning. I've been told that. They tell me I got to get rid of all my attachments. Good luck.
The layers are the unique prism that the source light is refracted through. And although it does help to undergo a process of getting to those roots of the monkey mind to be able to create a longer gap, be less reactive. With the longer gap is really what also helps with that discernment that we were talking about earlier. And to sort of have, like, I really appreciated how you said a little bit ago that there is more and more an eternal amount of layers of subtlety and clarity to this. Those are
I have people. It didn't used to happen in my early practice, teaching practice, because I just don't think there was an attractive enough clarity over here. I mean, I really don't. But now I regularly have people who, I mean, it's not every day, but I mean, it's regularly people like anywhere in the world who was walking down the street one day and boom, right? And they're just the awakeness unveiled itself.
exactly.
And they were never seekers, never looking to be seekers, never thinking about being seekers. And boom, awakening occurred, and they got a full dose of whatever the hell this is.
Yep.
But there's no clarity there, and there can be a lot of confusion. And there can be enough confusing that people find a way to suffer through anything. And so, you can even suffer with that, I'm sure. But the clarity that comes after it, there's a difference between understanding, which this can't be understood, and the understanding, which is with a capital U. I don't know of a better named word for it, but even though it's not understanding, but we know there is an understanding here.
Yeah.
I can tell from talking to you that you were part of this understanding. Right? And because you can't, somebody, I walk into a room and somebody just stays silent, I might judge them as, wow, that's quite the awakened being over there. And but if they come in and they start talking, I'll know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
As long as you got your mouth shut, you're a mystery. You open your mouth and start talking, there's no more mystery. And it doesn't take much.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why you can say it's like a surgical precision that has to be with the discernment of the logos of the words in order for that judgment of of what was the mystery and silence to be of they have closer to the capital U understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is, in my teaching, I use the word precision a lot because, and I talk about that. I don't know, I used years ago. I mean, I was a poet before I was a mystic. I was already a mystic and didn't know it. I thought it was a
Yeah.
But there's a great love of precision in language here because of those years as a poet. And you can sit there and agonize over what do I want to say and or for or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You agonize over even stuff. And the precision of the language will not get you there, but it can get you so close that if you're just willing to just step over. I mean, when I first started talking, I used to get a lot of explosive awakenings. And that's because people I couldn't get you all that close. I could get you pretty close to awakening, but you still had to leap off the mountain in order to get to the other mountain. But now there's a bridge. You just get to the top of this mountain, you walk right on over to the other one. There's not much of a leap you have to take. There's not that sudden jarring change of state, which is because when you're talking about with me, you're seeing it very, very, very slowly and easily and slowly and easily and slowly and easily. And then that momentum builds. But it used to be, so, and there, as a result of that, I had fewer and fewer explosive awakenings, almost none anymore, because there's not that same shock, because I know I'm working with awakeness. I mean, I will have people notice the sense of being prior to a session. because I'm putting myself on notice over there. Okay, I'm here, and the jig is up. Right? Awakeness comes to awakeness. Awakeness has no resistance to awakeness. But awakeness that thinks it's a Fred Davis, only so helpful.
As you mentioned a couple of times as well, there's one of the best ways, as you said with Nisargadatta Maharaj as well, is that the just sitting in the presence is already like a vortex in a sense. And so in a sense, we could say that at the top of that mountain is that as we in the layers of subtlety and clarity, there's more and more of a vortex that comes in the sense of pulling these in pursuit of that mountaintop up with, and that's also been something that's it's like the quality, we mentioned this as well, the quality of your life in many ways is the quality of your questions. And that if we're willing to ask these questions of what is I, what is my source,
we're willing to be honest with ourselves, and few of us are. And I was not particularly noted for honesty in my life, but now there's a sort of rigorous honesty over here, at least in this one area, where I can tell I can't tell myself I'm not myself. I can't tell myself I'm not this. I can't if from a Fred's point of view, I could introduce Fred to this very scene, and it will just suck out loud, because it'd be Fred's eyes view of the world, and the world is never going to be the way that Fred thinks it should be. But from this point of view, when I change where I'm looking from, and now I'm looking for the eyes of awakeness, where there's no actual point of view, there's just view, or just viewing, then I can't find a problem here. I can't find anything broken or out of place or missing, nothing.
Yep.
Seems to be, actually, there appears to just be what is, and what is, it feels to me like it can only be as it is.
Yes. Yes. And that's why the Rinzai Zen had the question of what at this moment is lacking.
Yes, that's it. That's right. Yeah, what at this moment is lacking? Absolutely nothing.
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 Yeah. Fred, this has been such an honor and a pleasure.
Oh, I've really enjoyed it. The quality of your questions has been really, really excellent, and the quality of your, how do I put that? But
tennis playing, dialectic.
Yeah, the quality of your tennis playing. Thank you for bailing me out of that. The quality of your tennis playing is very high, and I've really enjoyed going back and forth. It really is. It's just, what could be better?
Yeah, like you said, that's the second one. The first one is there's nothing to talk about, and the second one is the coolest thing is to get as close as we can with symbols to
That's
yeah.
right. That's it.
Yeah, that was a great point.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and
Yeah.
I'm tickled to death.
Me too. Yeah. Tickled to death. That's another good one. Yeah, I've been taking
the unborn is tickled to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I've been taking so many great notes of reference throughout the convo, and and that's been a great reference point throughout: the animating presence, the awakeness, both and the dream analogy, metaphysical anarchy, but not having it become a personality teaching, the non-duality of the beach with the duality of the mountain. That was a really, really good one. The veilless veil, the gateless gate. Yep. And the net and sense of being. And I'm looking forward to exploring more together. where are you based?
I'm in South Carolina.
Perfect. South Carolina. Cool. We're in Los
The,
Angeles.
the very center of the non-dual universe.
Of the exactly. Yeah, that's right. South Carolina, that's where it's at. Cool. Yeah, hopefully once things settle a bit closer to maybe the summer and whatnot, it would be awesome to be able to do one of these in person,
Yeah,
another round. Yeah, you're
that would
really
be great.
we really, really appreciate you a lot, Fred.
Thank
And
you.
and also for all of those that watched, we love you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for
Yeah,
tuning in. We are
yeah,
super appreciative. We would
we
we,
are.
we would love to hear how you feel about the tennis and what Fred was teaching us about in the comments below.
Come play tennis.
Come play tennis. Yeah, exactly. And let us we would love to hear from you, so let us know. And then also, like the video if it brought you value, subscribe if you haven't, share the video with other people as well, and also check out the links in the bio below. awakeningclaritynow.com is down there. Also Fred's author page on Amazon with all of his books, you can check those out, as well as his YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to him and check out his videos, they're excellent. And I think Fred mentioned throughout the interview as well that he's doing the smaller groups.
Yeah, I'm doing small groups, and I still do satsang every Sunday. Everybody is welcome to that. I got an email this morning that was addressed to Betsy, and it just said, "How do I meet Fred?" And I wrote him back, "So come to satsang." And there's still, I'm very actively teaching, and I'm teaching every day, and so I'm just not doing exactly the same thing as a modus operandi to help people wake up. I have new ways that are simply more efficient. Yeah,
Yep.
and they're less taxing on this old unit.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And
I've really had about all the hand-to-hand combat that I'm looking for with egos, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. The wisdom of that, and then also the wisdom of the internet with the ability to go one to many as
right.
well, which is really profound. So
yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you again so much, Fred. Thank you.
Thank
Super
you.
grateful.
It was my great pleasure.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll see you when I see you.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We love you so much. Thank you and much love. We will see you soon. Peace, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.